Every day I'm hustling, 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 hustling. So good to see y'all. So good to see you all. So good to be here. My lordy, lordy, lordy. I was lost in the wilderness today. Could have been a tragic day for me. And earlier in the week, I almost ended up in the county jail. So we'll talk a little bit. I'll just give you a little bit of updates. Good to see y'all smiling, seeing you happy. The craziness, the chaos, the drama of this world. This is a crazy world. Crazy world. Crazy world. I saw that as I was coming home today. Luckily, as I was coming home today, I got home and I tried to put on some healing frequency music to help my body to relax after being lost in the wilderness. Up on the news popped up a second assassination attempt on Mr. President Donald Trump. And my God, what is going on in our world? It's a crazy world we live in. It's crazy. And I invite us just to start with a prayer that our world calms down, returns to peace. I pray that here in the United States, I guess in all of the world, I pray that we have faith in democracy, faith in speech and debate and elections, and that it's okay. It's okay to differ in opinions, and that we, at the end of the day, we're here to grow together, to get along, to come to peace, to know ourselves, to wake up and to realize that all of life is divine. So we pray this night, this day, whatever time it is where you are, for world peace and for the awakening of humanity, the awakening out of darkness, awakening out of division, awakening out of chaos and confusion. We ask that the Divine Mother flows her grace down into this most beautiful world, blessing all beings and helping to cool the political flames, the flames of war and violence and ideology. Lord, we've been given this gift of the internet, and we've gotten carried away with our ideas and our ideology, and it's made us a very divisive culture, and we hope to connect with each other in a way to grow in love, in unity, in peace, in harmony. We ask that you support us in living in alignment with the laws of Mother Nature and respecting this earth and respecting this planet. I ask you to bring humanity into a higher realm of light. In fact, we ask that this whole earthly realm be upgraded and brought into the light, so peace and love and truth may triumph now and forevermore. Okay. All right. Well, welcome everyone to Satsang. I put on my cactus shirt, what are these things called? Saguaro cactuses, cacti, I think is how you're supposed to say it. If I'm being politically correct, I think it's cacti. If you ever get a chance to go for a drive south of Flagstaff on your way down to, what's that place called with the crystals? Sedona. You might run into the saguaro cactus. They're beautiful. They're gorgeous. They're amazing. It's a wonder of God's creation. And there's just something about them that's kind of silly too. Kind of silly. They just look kind of silly. And so if you ever get a chance, go check them out. Go check them out. I wore this shirt, so I'm trying to bring a sense of joy into my life that I made it back home and I'm safe and sound. My Lord, it's a wild world out there, and I live in a wild place, and I do wild things, and sometimes I get in trouble. Sometimes trouble finds me. Today, I think it was the work of it's like the shamanic forces of the elk and the forces of the unknown taking me on some kind of hero's journey of some sort. Anyways, we'll talk about that later. So, um, one question I'm going to invite us all to sit with. So if we just close our eyes and we'll just open into a space of inquiry. As I'm going to invite you to ask, I'm going to ask you, who makes your dreams? The dreams that you have at night. Who creates those dreams? And I want you just to take a moment to reflect upon the whole world of dreaming. You go to sleep at night, you open into another world. What is that world? What is that world of dreams? Who creates it? Who creates your dreams at night while you're sleeping? Where do they come from? You can reflect for a moment upon this world. We have this idea that God created this world. But who creates your dreams at night? Like, what is that? What is a dream? Who creates it? And for most of us, when we're in a dream, we don't know that we're dreaming unless we're awake in our dream. I assume most of us, the majority of our dreams, we're not awake. And who creates those dreams? Where do they come from? And how do you know how do you know? It's a new question now. You are not in a simulation. How do you know? At some point, we wake up out of our dream and we wake up into another world. This world. How do we know this world is not a dream? How do you know this world is not a dream? And if you join me for a moment, giving yourself permission to let go of the thought, the idea, the belief, the dogma that God created this world. I'll ask you that first question. Who creates this dream of your life right now? Who creates this dream, this reality, this play, this dance, this simulation, this realm? Now, I'm certain everyone here has had a moment of awakening, and they're just walking around. Just a real gentle awakening. We're just walking around, and we're in a daydream, and we wake up out of it. We're like, oh gosh, that wasn't true. That's not true at all. I was just believing something. I was lost in some story, lost in a dream. Who created that dream? So again, we'll have a little fun. We'll go through them. If you're sleeping at night, like really sleeping, who creates your dreams at night? Who creates your dreams at night? And then if you join me here in this moment, who creates this dream of your life, personal identity, the story of you that you are a somebody, a something, a someone? And how do you know it's real? Is it real? Throw you a curveball. How do you know it's not a simulation? Who created the simulation? Who creates the world of you? That I am this one who must guard and defend. And what is this one that I'm guarding and defending? That I'm acting out, fighting against, resisting? Is this world separate from my consciousness? Is there actually an outside and an inside? Is this world separate from my consciousness? Is there a world separate from my consciousness? How do you know this world is not a simulation? And if it is, who created it? Do you create worlds ever? Can you see how you create worlds? how you make some things right and some things wrong, some things acceptable, some things not acceptable. How you create yourself as a saint or a sinner or something in between. And the whole dream that comes with that. And so you can open your eyes if you like. You see your beautiful eyes again. I'm curious. I'm curious. What came forward when you played with these questions? Like what came forward? Like your dreams at night. Why don't you guys put something in the chat for me? I feel like I'm not just a lunatic here talking to myself. Crazy talk here. So this first question, who creates your dreams at night? Maybe somebody could write something about that. What you came up with. Yeah, it's all a projection of the mind. And there is only this consciousness. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anne writes, I do. The way Jung spoke about it was that there was this thing called the collective unconsciousness, and out of it there was all these archetypes, and these things would come forward and kind of dance with our wounds and our confusion and this and that. But the way Jung spoke about it is, I mean, he spoke about it in a kind of a funny way. It is you and it's an other. I want to know what happens when you begin to take ownership of it. When you take ownership. Richard writes, they appear and are identified with. Uh-oh. Let's see, where did that one go? They appear and are identified with. They arise similar to thoughts. Yeah, yeah. Megan writes, I may have been taking my daily activities in this dream a little too seriously. Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing to see that, Okay, Jan writes, subconscious dreams, the energy of past desires and fears, experiences in dreams, Jung's big dreams, a thinning of the waking ego to allow the vast inner realms. Yeah. Wesley writes, I wonder about that too. Sometimes it seems like my mind, sometimes from a deeper place, beyond me it seems. Yeah, I like what Wesley said. Like where do they come from? They come from us and then something beyond us. And then, we might recognize that thing beyond us is us, is us. So when I was lost in the wilderness today, I wasn't thinking about this. I was thinking about getting home. I was thinking about getting home. But when I made it back to my van, I started to really think about this. I don't know why it came. It just came to me. It came to me. I know why it came out. I'll share a little bit. So I had a terrible, terrible encounter just the other night, right as we were finishing. No, this was right after meditation, and I was trying to, do the editing of the videos and upload them. I heard this, like a ruckus and a scream from my wife. Oh, it's such a terrible story. I don't even want to tell it, but um, and so, I opened my door and ran out. And she said, the bear's out there. And listen, y'all, I've told you all these stories about courageous Craig, this character who's not afraid of bears. I've told you these beautiful stories about a mama bear with 3 cubs dancing in my backyard, just dancing with our sheets in the wind. And I've had probably at least 100 encounters with bears. 100, at least. They're part of my life, especially in the fall. I never really had any trouble besides, you know, having to go pick up some big piles of bear poop the next day. I have a big pear tree they like to come and eat. And I've lived with apple trees and they like to eat those. And I've had bird feeders, and again, no problem there. They can eat some bird seed. I'm okay with that. But but I had my reality shift, around bears. And this week, y'all might not think this is so tragic. It's really tragic for us, but we have these 2 sweet little guinea pigs, Pip and Bean, such sweet creatures. And they were outside, and we had this big old bear come, and I didn't know a bear wanted to eat a guinea pig. I did know that bears eat chickens, and I know they love pears and fruit. And I mostly think of a bear as a big vegetarian, at least the bear that we have around here in Colorado. Now, if you go up in Alaska or Canada, they have grizzlies, and that's a different story. But I've never seen a bear, be violent. Normally I open the door and they run away like puppy dogs. And I opened the door, and this bear was ripping my little daughter's piggies to shreds, and demolishing a cage. And not only that, he wasn't scared of me. He smelled blood, and he wasn't moving. And I unleashed a fury of profanity on him, to which he was not afraid. Not afraid. And I have this big metal pole holding up my porch, like a post, and I was banging on it, I just grabbed whatever the hell I could, and it was a pair of crutches. And I banged that pole so hard the crutches split in 2, and I was screaming and hollering and this and that. And he was just tearing these little piggies to shreds, and it was horrific. I won't go into it anymore, but it was a horrific sight. But he wasn't running. He wasn't scared. He wasn't moving. And he was, like really close, like maybe 8, 10 feet from me. And here's the thing about me being a father is I love my little girl, and I don't want anything to hurt my little girl. And I don't want anyone to crush my little girl's innocence. But this bear certainly did. It certainly did. And he was not leaving my yard, and I was screaming and hooting and hollering and this and that and banging. And my next door neighbor thought that I was over here killing my wife and daughter. That's what she thought was going on. Like that's how wild I was with my tongue. Now, she may have all kinds of ideas about what kind of fella I am, but my wife had to assure her the next day that there was no domestic violence at this house. But there was, this wildlife encounter with this bear, and when I saw what he done, it brought up a fury, crazy fury within me, a fury. And my little girl, she loves her little piggies. I love them too. They're sweet, and they've been a part of our family. Pip and Bean, they're really sweet, cute, cuddly. And so now, now they're in heaven. So eventually I chased the bear off, and then not too long after, my heart was still pounding. I had so much adrenaline in me, because he was a big fella too. He was not a little, he was not a little bear cub. He was a big boy. And then he came back shortly after, and seeing if there was any bit of the scraps, the little piggies that he could eat. And I chased him off again. Y'all are like thinking, like, what the hell is it? What kind of story is this, Craig? Like, what kind of thought song is this? And so I laid in bed at night, and I'll tell you this dream, this illusion that I have been under. And it's good to see our illusions. It's good. That's what we're here to do, is to see through our illusions. So I'm telling you my illusion. I have this illusion that I live under, this ideology. I don't want to call it a dogma. That's too harsh of a word, but I have a belief that, Lord, if I serve you, you will take care of me and you'll protect my family. And it's not true. It's not true. Violence has come, to my house in many different forms over the years. And every time it does, and when violence comes, and I'm pretty understanding, compassionate kind of fella. Now, I have some fury in me too. Uh, you know, it's part of being human, part of having a nervous system. If you see, a big wild animal, a monster, all of a sudden tearing up, you know, your pets, you might have some fury too. You might have some fury too. But I had this idea that good things, it's this age old question, good things should not happen. Bad things should not happen to good people. If I could say it right, if I wasn't dyslexic. Bad things shouldn't happen to good people. They do all the time. They do every day. Hell, I almost, I almost, I don't want to say died today, but I could have been out there for like 4 days, 5 days before I stumbled my butt back home. Like I was pretty lost today. But I had this idea. So I was laying in bed the other night after meditation, after this horrific encounter. And it's hard to calm down when you see, you know, I love little animals. I love critters. I love my pets. I love my family. My God, do I love my daughter, and I don't want anyone to harm her. And I have this idea, because I knew, like, it's crazy that the pain that came over my consciousness when I realized, now I have to go tell my daughter. And look, I've been sick for like 6 weeks since I got COVID. And I got a lot sicker in the last 2 weeks. My daughter's sick as hell. Her whole school's sick. It's just going around. So we haven't been having a good, peachy time lately. It's been a tough go. And in the morning I kind of got her up, and this was going to be her first day back at school, because she was sick the first 3 days. Maybe that, yeah. So maybe it was the first 2 days. Anyways, so I hustled her off to school without telling her, and then she came home after school, and I had this feeling in my belly. The same feeling I had when I knew, like with my first marriage, that I was getting divorced and had to sit down and tell the kids it is a terrible feeling. It's like there's a truth I need to tell you that I don't want to tell you because I know it's going to crush you. And this is something that if you're a parent, like, you know, these kind of things, it's just like, damn, I don't want to crush my daughter's innocence here. But she came home from school. She knew right away. We were outside and I was raking up blood out of the grass. It was just like terrible. And she said, you know, where's Pip and Bean? What happened? And my God, did my daughter wail, like wailing and wailing and wailing. And when you're a parent and you're having to soothe your child when they're wailing, and she sweat through her shirt and like tears just pouring down her face. Hell, the night before I was comforting my wife because, you know, she's the one that opened the door at first to see the bear, what it was doing. And it's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to be human sometimes. It's heartbreaking. And I had this idea, this belief. We pray, we show up, we do our healing work, we meditate, you know, we try to be good vegans or whatever it is, you know, whatever it is. We try to be kind and spread love in this world. And, you know, that's not going to protect you. I had a thought, just an unconscious thought, an unexamined thought. And this came up, you know, a number of years ago when violence struck my family before. And I had this thought too, and it brings up a crisis of faith. Now, of course, I'm not going to lose my faith, but it makes like the mind can spin a little bit. It can wonder, it can say, what kind of world is this? This isn't fair. This isn't right. Sure, Mr. Trump, after being shot at twice, can't can't remember how long it's been, 6 weeks or 9 weeks. Now, Mr. Trump's a little bit of a troublemaker, but he's got a loud mouth, you know. But still, it's like no reason to kill a man. No reason to kill a man. And he's maybe thinking, like, what kind of world is this? What kind of world is this? What kind of world is it? And most of us, like in the spiritual path, we try to play this game where we just try to be like, I'm just going to float in some transcendent way. It's all good. It's all love. What did Kyle write? Let me pull up what Kyle wrote. Kyle likes to float. There is only this consciousness. There's only this consciousness. We like to float in these lofty spiritual ideals. There's only this. Okay, well, let's look at that. There's only this. Because that's where I had to go. It's all God. The good, the bad, the ugly. You hear me say it every week. I had the ugly come to my home. I had the ugly come to my home. And it was interesting too, seeing this bear, because as he was absolutely, um, he was like decapitating these pigs. And a piggy's head is on the ground. It's like looking at me while I'm looking at the bear. He's got the other one in his mouth. And I'm just like, this is horror. This is horror. It's just horror. There is only this consciousness. It's all a projection of the mind. Like, I like the first two ones. There is only this consciousness. It's all a projection of the mind. What's my projection? This shouldn't happen. And so I really sat with this question: can I accept this? Can I accept this? Like, what's my other choice? I can fight against it. I can argue with it. I can be mad. I was certainly mad. I was furious, furious. Like I had fury. I got to know fury. I got to know fury quite well. Wednesday night, we had a lovely meditation. We were getting to know the deep peace and the ground of being. And afterwards, I got to know fury. I got to know fury, like real fury, like so much, like a terrifying my next door neighbor. You know, it's like, and I had the police, the game warden on the phone. I had them, I had them all on the phone. Uh, they were telling me my options. Apparently, you're not allowed to shoot a bear in town unless it charges you. And so, uh, that wasn't an option. But the thought came across my mind, And I'm sure it'd come across your mind too, even if you think you're not a violent person. If you see a wild animal tear apart your pet, you might have another thought. Now, I probably wouldn't have this thought with a chicken, and no offense to any chickens out there, but I've had chickens before, and I don't know what chickens are. They're something else. But a little guinea pig, they're sweet, and they sit in your lap, and they cuddle with you, and they play with you, and they chirp at you, and they know me, and they're my daughters. And see, I'm pointing out my attachments. I'm attached to my daughter. I'm attached to her innocence. I'm attached to her being happy. I'm attached to her having a sweet life. I'm attached to my yard being safe, safe, safe. And again, I've never had any problems with bears in the past. They come all the time, knock the garbage can over, eat my pears, tear up my fence, um, hell, bang on my house. Like I've been awoken in the night because they shaking on my house, hitting the bird feeder. And all that was sweet. I'm comfortable with that. And then we have these spiritual ideas that if one is awake, if one is enlightened, should be comfortable with everything. Well, that's a lie. Is the Dalai Lama comfortable with the destruction of his people and his country? Of course not. Of course not. There are things in this world we will not be comfortable with. There are things in this world we will not accept. But then we come back to this teaching. There is only this consciousness. But when I step into the vast view, there's acceptance of all kinds of things. There is an acceptance of this, an acceptance that this is part of my daughter's, her soul's journey. And I'll tell you something, she did something really sweet. She grieved she screamed bloody murder. I mean, this went on for hours and hours, sobbing, weeping. She did what I teach. She grieved fully. Fully. She shaked, she trembled. She was coughing, hacking on snot and tears and just. And then at some point, she got up and we went for a drive. She didn't want to be at the house. She didn't want to be in the backyard. She wanted to go on a drive. It's like, okay, sweetie, we'll take you on a drive. And she moves into acceptance through grieving fully. Through grieving fully. I didn't grieve fully immediately. I went into fury, and this should not have happened. I became the bear. I went into Papa Bear mode. Papa Bear mode. And Papa Bear has a thought that no danger, no difficulty should come to his daughter. And so it took me some time. And then I grieved. And grieving, as I teach often, is a tantric doorway to acceptance. We're not going to go from tragedy to there is only this consciousness. It is all a projection of the mind. We're not going to go there right away when tragedy comes. We must first enter the doorway of grief. Grieving supports us in the letting go. Supports us in the letting go. And as we let go, we come to the other side of letting go. We're left with the peace and the freedom of acceptance that this world has violence. There's many active wars going on here on planet Earth. There's wars, across the globe. We have wars in our community. We have wars in our own mind. If we're honest. But I think sometimes as spiritual beings, we're good at lying to ourselves. That it's all good. I'm not divided. There's only this consciousness. That's all there is. That's all there is. We say these things to ourselves. But we don't actually know these things until we walk through hell. I can tell you, while I had all this fury going on between me and the bear, I also looked at him directly. And he looked back at me with pure innocence. Pure innocence. Pure innocence. And that was shocking to me. Because sometimes we think, well, if you are involved in an act of violence, that means you're bad. That means you're wrong. But I looked at this fella. And he did have, I'll say two things. He was seeing red. That means he had like blood on his lips and on his paws. And he was just in kill mode and just like violent killing. Like I think with cats, a lot of times cats will just like break the neck of the prey. The problem with a bear is bears and wolves will eat you while you're still alive. And that's a horrific thing. I don't know if cats do that, but we don't need to go too far into that. But it's a crazy thing, just to think about that just for a moment. That there's animals that will eat you while you are alive. I'm sure many of us have seen like videos of like National Geographic and hyenas. I'm sorry it's such a bloody satsang tonight, but this is where we're going with it. But he looked at me. He had bloodthirst. But he also had just pure innocence. And again, that shocked me. Because he was under this dream. this illusion. You know, he smells a little critter that he can get a hold of. And he just starts eating it like he can't stop himself. Like there was nothing in him that could stop. Nothing. And we've all had that before, where we've acted something out. We might have self-consciousness about it. We might know it's wrong. Sometimes we've just been under the dream of we're just doing something fully unconscious. Like if any of you are coffee drinkers, like you probably wake up in the morning just unconscious. And I've never been a coffee drinker, but I see it all the time with people. They're totally unconscious. And he's like kind of unconsciously walk directly over the coffee pot and start cooking that thing up and brewing it. With little or no awareness. Sometimes we're driving in traffic and we might have a moment of anger, or road rage, or, some form of that. We're just totally unconscious. And afterwards we realize, oh my God, like I was in a dream. I was just in a dream. I was just in a dream. But this bear, he had no self-consciousness, no morality. It's like, does a bear have morality? No. Does nature have morality? No. But here I was, I projected this idea. Miss Wilson writes, it's all a projection of the mind. I projected morality onto a bear. I mean, hell, for years I've projected cute cuddliness onto a bear. Not really cuddliness, cuteness and puppy-like, because that's how I've always interacted with them. They've always been like puppies with me. I go out and I holler and they run away, like little puppies. It's like almost like joy. It's like a mix between a puppy and a bunny rabbit, but they're 300 pounds, So what do you project onto the world? What do you project? How about y'all put something in the chat for me? I want to see what y'all project onto the world. I projected this idea that my yard should be safe, that my pets should be safe, that my daughter should be protected and happy. Bad things shouldn't happen to good people. Look at that. I'm projecting that I'm a good person onto the world. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm a terrible, rotten scoundrel. Let's see what we have here, what people project. I don't know. Aaron, let's look a little deeper. Can't think of anything you project on the world? Terry writes, the same one thing that creates thoughts. What does that mean? The same one thing that creates thoughts. Write that again. Richard writes, they hear. Am I screwing this up? Maybe I'm just screwing this up. Here we go. Excuse me, Aaron. I'm messing things up. Look at me. Aaron writes, fear. Project fear onto the world. It's funny, I don't project fear upon the world, but when I have a real life encounter of fear, it's like confusing to me. Like, this shouldn't be happening. Like, this isn't right. Yeah, okay. Forgive me, Aaron, for making that mistake. I was reading your earlier comment. Anne writes, same thing, dangerous. Catherine writes, I'm scared. I don't know what where'd it go? I'd be without my suffering and history. Gosh, that's a fun one. What would I be without my suffering and history? What would I be? Like, let's all just join Catherine. We'll all play with this one just for a moment. We'll just take a deep breath. We'll close our eyes. Who would I be? Who am I without my history? Without my suffering? Who am I without my suffering? Who am I without my suffering? That's the next question. Blair writes, my life should go well. Yeah, that's what we think. I love what Kyle writes. I project that it's unfair for me to have a job. Kyle, how old are you? Are you a millennial? Is that what that is? Is that the millennial projection? I should be able to live without a job. That is a thought that has never crossed my consciousness because I was inbred with, you are only worthy if you're working. If you're working, you're only worthy when you're working. That took me a long time to get over. I'm worthy when I'm not working, but I tend to work a lot. I project that the world should have it together, be awake a little more, is what Taylor writes. Yeah, boy, I project that. I project that all the time. I project that the world is awake and it does have it together. And then sometimes they show me, the world shows me uh, that they're not awake. You know, anytime I turn on the news, I see, oh, look, here's people who are not awake. Here's people who are not awake. I project that people in public places are spending their valuable time judging and thinking about me as if I was that significant. That's a hilarious one. That's a hilarious one. You know, someone who makes fun videos about that is, what's that guy's name? Is it Mark Manson? I don't know if I got his name right. The subtle art of not giving a F. He makes some fun videos about that, about this idea that everyone's thinking about us. Normally, no one's thinking about us. Like, how about that? Okay, what was the question that I asked for Catherine? I want us to write. We're just going to do an interactive satsang tonight. I'm having some fun with this. Who am I without my history? Who am I without my history? And I don't want you to come up with the cliche right answer. I want you to really feel into it. Who am I without my history, without the story of my suffering? Who am I? Who am I? This point of awareness right here, writes Lauren. Disoriented, yes, yet peaceful. Yes, disorientation is the doorway to freedom. Very good. Very good. Wow, isn't it wild how things shift just like that? Just like that. Who am I without my history, without my suffering? If you notice, the energy of the satsang changes from blood and guts, and this world isn't fair, to there is only this consciousness. I'm having some fun with that. A free nobody. Again, from Miss Wilson. Richard writes, more openness and space. Yeah, more openness and space. And that's what we are here to realize, is that we are openness and space. We are openness and space. And the more we identify with this character who lives in this world, who lives in this story, who lives in this Maya. You know, I had a pretty crazy Maya this week with violence and being lost in the wilderness. Um, I was so lost. I've spent so much of my life in the wilderness. And you know what's so crazy is I didn't know I was lost for a long time. And then it occurred to me, everything is looking new. See, I walked in a trail. It wasn't really a trail. I was stalking elk, following elk trails. But I walked a game trail that I'm accustomed to walking today. And, I went up and over a mountain and I made it to this other side. And I was like, oh, look, now's the time to turn around. That was a really easy hike today. And so I turned around and I started to walk back. And I walked some more and some more and some more. And I wasn't suffering at all. I was having a glorious time. The leaves are beginning to change here in Colorado. My heart was so happy to be in nature. Let me tell you, I was hot on a trail with an elk. I was stalking this big boy, and I was pretty close to him, and I was bumping him along and stalking and stalking. And what's interesting to me is it's almost like a spell was put on me, because I want you to imagine I just walked up and over a mountain to the other side, and then I was going to walk back up and over the mountain back. And I can't go down the sides because they're really steep on both sides. I was walking a ridge line. And on one side of the ridge was the road. It was steep, but then it goes to the road, and it's like, that's safe. There's no problem there. The other side was just like a cliff. And somehow, somehow, I ended up 3 mountains over. 3. And to this day, to this moment, I have no idea how that happened. I looked on the map over and over again. And so to get myself back home, I had to go down these steep cliffs and up steep cliffs 3 times, which is ridiculous. I've never been lost like that in my life. And how I got over there, because I would have had to go down an enormously steep cliff. It was like a spell was put on me. But was it, or was I just in spacious, empty awareness, happy as could be, and somehow I bumbled my way over there? I don't know. I don't know. But this question of who am I without my history, without my suffering? Who am I? Like, what are you? Yeah, Blair writes, I feel lighter but reluctant to let go. Why? Why would we be reluctant to let go of our suffering? What does our suffering do for us? Well, for some of us, like Catherine wrote, it gives us a sense of self, a sense of me-ness. So many of us, we wake up in the morning and we're just downloaded this program again. Who am I? I am the unworthy one. It's probably my fault. I'm I'm to blame. I'm to blame. Some of us wake up in the morning. I can't trust myself. I doubt myself. I doubt this and I doubt that and I doubt that and I doubt that and I doubt that and I doubt that. And it's funny, I want to say this. This is the wrong word, but I'm just going to say it. There's a sick security in holding on to your suffering. It's just like, yeah, I know who I am. I'm the guy who hates fill in the blank. I'm the person who is a victim. I'm the person who there's no place for me here. That was my story for a long time. There's no place for me here on planet Earth. There's no place for me. No place for me. Except for doing a job that I don't want to do. That's the place for me. But there's no real place for spiritual people, was my thought when I was young. And I wake up with that as a belief every day. There's no place for me. And it provides us a security. It provides us an orientation. An orientation of knowing who and what we are. We don't have to experience the fear of not knowing. When you not know, you can get in a lot of trouble. Like today, I got in a lot of trouble not knowing. I kept walking and walking. And I kept thinking, God, my campsite's just got to be right on the other side of this little mountain here. This little mountain was a big mountain. And I climb up and over a big mountain. And then I'd see, oh, this is not my campsite. This is another giant valley. I got to go down and up. And I thought, oh, it's got to be right on the other side of that one. And I went down and up. And I thought, oh, I'm really lost. I am really lost. That's when some suffering began. And it wasn't that, I was suffering anguish or anything. Like, I'm a tough fella and I know I could get out of there. But I was really confused. I was like, where the heck am I? Where am I? And I can tell you, I've had some fogginess, from having so much sinus pressure and everything in my head. And I thought, I can't be that foggy. Where am I at? Where am I? What is going on here? And when you always know what you are because your suffering gives you an orientation, you don't have to wonder, who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Oh, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I'm hating myself. That's what I'm doing. I know how to do that. I've done it for a long time. I've done it since I'm a teenager. I'm going to keep doing that. It's like, that's what we think unconsciously. And I know this is kind of crazy. I'm just exaggerating a little bit here to have some fun, to make some points, to point out some perspectives. But again, who is courageous enough to let go of that old identity? And please, I'm not telling you to do this when you're out in the wilderness like me. Like, you don't need to do it then. How about right here in the safety of your own home? The safety of your own home. Who would I be? Who am I? Who am I? Now I'm going to circle back to that first question, because I have these funny, I don't know if you call them funny, but I'm going to call it funny realizations, because I keep having this realization when I'm out in the wilderness. And it's a big vision realization, but I see myself as this will sound really strange to y'all, but I see my throat vomiting out worlds, whole worlds. My whole life is coming up from the ground of being. My life, all the mountains, like these glorious mountains that I'm walking around in, and the spirit of the elk. Hell, I was right up on a cat today too. I didn't see it, but what's a better word than, I got to use better words with YouTube. Scat. I ran into some scat from a cat, a big cat. That rhymes. Sounded like Dr. Seuss here. And I'm in cat territory. I'm in these elk tracks. The bear's with me. I got the bear with me too. I have these beautiful deer with me. But I see coming up from the ground of my being, the ground, like of the heart, this energy coming up. And it's just pouring out, creating all of this world, creating the character Craig, creating my family, creating you, creating me, creating the bear, that violent bear, these mountains, this hero's journey, the elk. You heard my story last week of the elk coming and whispering to me. This great play of the darkness pouring out of me, the light coming into me. And I keep seeing that I'm creating it all. I created all the characters. Johan asked this question last week about manifestation. It's kind of a different swing on manifestation. There's the conscious manifestation. I'm manifesting a Ford Bronco, a Sprinter van, so I can live van life or whatever people want. I'm manifesting $1 million. Not that kind of silly nonsense. A non-dual manifestation. That all of life is pouring out of. I keep seeing it out of my throat. And that could sound completely insane and psychotic, but it's a vision that keeps coming to me. Keeps coming. The other night, Wednesday night, I was very angry at God for allowing this bear to come and tear up my daughter's little piggies, our friends Pip and Bean. But then it occurred to me, am I certain? Do I know that God created this world? Now, I can tell you that I have had this bias, a religious bias, a spiritual bias, that God created this world and whatever happens in this world is God's will. And we must be humble and accepting of God's will. What if, let's just play with this just for a moment. What if, and I know those of you who have experienced great trauma, you're not going to like this, but let's just play with it. What if you create this world? Do you know that God created this world? Like, do we know that? Is it possible? And I know we're going like way out there, this satsang. Someone told me a little bit ago, Craig, you are biased. You are right. I have so many bias. And I want to look at deconstructing some of those. Are we certain that God created this world? Are we certain that you are separate from God? Is it possible that you created this world? I'm not saying you did. I'm just asking, is it possible? Is it possible? It's certainly possible, and I think we can all agree upon this, that we all create some degree of this world. We can create our own suffering. We can create our own happiness. And there's been people in most horrific situations who've created great happiness and joy. And there's people with ridiculous abundance and wealth and prosperity. I've talked to some of them who've created great depression and heartache and despair and insanity. So it's certainly possible, like in a relative way, right? Is it possible, big picture, that you created this world, this dream, this simulation, this Maya? Is it possible? Is it possible? And it might even be a real dark one. Like, I was thinking today, I am the bear. I am the violent one. I'm the lunatic screaming at the bear, arguing with it. I'm my daughter crying her eyes out. I am you, hearing the sound of my voice. And I keep being shown this again and again and again. What is that? What is that? And so, what a strange, wild night. Sometimes when a man spends too much time in the wilderness, he gets a little nutty. He gets a little nutty. He's a little nutty. Let's do it, Catherine. Right. What if we dreamed it when we were stardust? I had an intuition once that my self-hatred, suicidal thoughts started when these two nebula collided. Yeah, how about that? How about that? How about that? Who creates your dreams? Who creates this world? Are we sure? Are we absolutely certain this is not a simulation? I want to say one more thing. I had this dream last night, and I dreamed that I was a totally different person. Completely different, like a completely different. I think always when I dream, I, like this guy, this crazy individual, is in the dream. Now, sometimes it's a different timeline. Sometimes it's, in a different, it's whatever, 1943 or 44. And I'm fighting the Nazis. I've had so many of these dreams. I've been in the jungles of Vietnam having these dreams. I've had past life dreams, but it's always felt like me. Last night, I had a dream where I was a totally different person, like a different soul. And then I woke up this morning and I said, huh, what was that? Oh, wholly a different person, different soul. And I woke up from it like that. And I looked back at that person. It's like, what was that? What was that? It's like I took on a character in a different simulation and lived someone else's life. It's quite bizarre. And I woke up in this world and thought, how do you know that this world's not a simulation? Sometimes I get scared I'm in a dream, but I don't know it. We are in a dream. we're, we're in this dream, this crazy dream. You turn on the news, you'll be in that kind of dream. Divided politics, that'll be the dream. You turn on something else and you can be in a different dream. Yeah, right. Stay with us, Greg. Listen, I'm not going anywhere. Not going anywhere. You know me, I'm pretty consistent. I'm pretty good at showing up. But wouldn't it be something if we woke up tomorrow and this was just all a dream? Just poof. Wouldn't it be something? Wouldn't it be something? So I'll leave you all with that. Who creates your dreams? Who creates this world? How do we know we're not in a simulation? The Buddha looked at some of these questions as the unanswerables. But, like, why is there suffering in the world? He gave some great plan to avoid suffering, but come on now. Come on now, Buddha. We're all going to suffer to some degree. Can't avoid total suffering. When we play with questions like this, I want you just to notice, because we're having a little fun tonight, just what happens to the nature of your mind. What happens? We begin to step out of the little character, the small, fearful worldview, a worldview that is based in our animal nature, our limbic system. Can we step out of that just for a little bit and just play around a little bit and just see what starts to come. See what opens up for you. I'm going to encourage y'all to play with questions, to ask questions, to question yourself, what you think you know, what you think you're afraid of. To question and to see. And it's not necessarily that we're looking for some pithy answer. As we begin to question, as we begin to inquire, just to notice the nature of your consciousness, how it expands. Now, some of you question from a place of doubt, and that should make you feel more constricted. I'm inviting you to question from a place of curiosity. The same way if we go outside at night, just look up at the Milky Way. I hope you can see the Milky Way. And just wonder. And really play with wonder, play with awe, play with curiosity. And so, I'm going to invite us all to show up in loving ways, in peaceful ways, in undivided ways in this world, adding and contributing to the healing and the unification of planet Earth. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. And may all beings be free. May we come into the truth of acceptance. May we come to the truth of freedom. Good night, everyone. So much love to y'all. Good to be with you. I'm glad to be here with you tonight. Goodbye.